There we go. Getting professional. I can hit the record button from my phone. I don't have to reach around the cart to actually get this thing started. But this puts me at exactly 19 days away from Showtime. So not insignificant. You know, this is not like 3 months out. Okay, I can still kind of scrap around. I can still sort of eat whatever. Like, I got 3 months right now. This is basically 2 weeks. I have one advantage over everyone else competing at the Columbus Arnold, and that's that I live super close. So I don't have to. I'm not gonna have like a week of staying in the hotel and having to get groceries and everything. So I'm gonna try to make use of that, of course. But so far, or not so far, but these last few weeks, my diet has gotten very, very simple and clean. And that's just kind of the nature of bodybuilding, like show based dieting anyway, because I'm not going to be sitting here slamming, fucking ramen noodles or ground beef and like mac and cheese. Like, it's just not in the cards because all I'm really doing is, well, just eating enough to maintain my muscle and then hopefully burn off a good chunk of body fat, from the outside. So what that means is I'm kind of cutting it down to the more bare bones, like just proteins, carbs, and really fats are minimal. Like, oh man, you got me walking through the ramen aisle. Honestly, I would not mind a six pack of these, but that's for the future. So how about we start with a yeah, let's just start with the protein first. Partially because they moved everything around in this grocery store, so I don't know where the hell it is. But let's get some freaking, well, what do you think's first? Beef or chicken? All right, yeah, beef will be stop number one. So I say this every time I go to the grocery store and I get any kind of cuts of like steak. You don't have to be a rocket, or I guess not a rocket scientist. You don't have to be a kinesiologist, dieting, master's degree kind of dude to be able to understand that. Actually, yeah, this is a pretty good example. That this cut of steak is much leaner than this one, right? I mean, look at all this marbling, look at all that kind of intramuscular fats. I can tell you this is going to be tastier. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with you there. But in terms of as a protein source, I want to really take that literally right now, more so than ever. So I'm not aiming for anything too soft and kind of fatty like that. I mean, sure, when you cook steak, some of that fat is going to get rendered off, but not much. I mean, sure, it does seem like a lot, but there's still a lot of fats in the steak residually. Like if I had that, let's say that's about a pound-ish. That softer one, even cooked, probably still has 30 or 40 grams of fats. I mean, that's almost as much fat as I'm trying to eat in an entire day. So instead of that, I think I'm gonna go right about here. These actually look pretty good. So normally I get just top round, but these actually these are a little more serving size-ish. So I'm gonna grab 4 of these top sirloin. Actually, let's just do 6 and cook them all at once when I get home. 6 of these top sirloin fillets, or not fillets, but it says petite steak. So this will last me a pretty decent freaking chunk. I'm doing about 250 grams of protein per day, sometimes a little more, but 250 is pretty much the number. So that's just about 2.5 pounds of meat. I'm not going to eat all steak, so that'll last me a little while for sure. But ground beef is not off the menu. But same thing, you got to be diligent. You can't just say, I want some ground beef. You're going to want to go as lean as feasible. So it's not as you can't tell as much, but even just that visual cue is still apparent. 92% lean, no, 96% lean right here versus 15 or 85%. So it's, I mean, they're very comparable. To someone who doesn't really think about that, you'd say that the biggest difference between these two pieces of beef are just the fact that the container is different, right? But we got to think a little bit deeper and make sure you track that shit. In a dieting context, especially, I could think that I'm eating exactly as I should. There's only two of these, so I'll just stick with two. But I could think and track all my protein, all my carbs, all every little bit of sauce that I use on everything. But if I didn't track that intramuscular fat in like a ground beef or something, and let's say I was eating a ton of ground beef, well, I could do an entire day of eating and I could think, hey, 2,500 calories, awesome. When in reality, I may have eaten an extra 40 or 50 grams of fats that just kind of snuck in that I didn't even know about. And an extra 50 grams of fat, if you're in like, a decently steady, small deficit, that'll put you over, and then you're just going to be sitting here thinking you're dieting. You're not going to lose any body fat. And that's why people are going to say like, oh shit, dieting just doesn't work for me. It's like, well, yeah, if you only diet 70% of the way there, it's not going to work. Like, you really do have to be like a certified personal accountant of all of the macros that are going into your system. In an off season, not as important, eat enough food that you're growing, but there's no getting around it when it comes to dieting. Like bulking up is like running an under the table business. You don't have to track everything perfectly and it's still going to work, sort of. But dieting down is more like when the IRS is going to come after you and there's no getting around it. You're getting audited. So I think that's enough red meat for now. Now let's get some protein that comes in a can. All right, I think this is where I'm headed. So my last dieting phase, or my last like bodybuilding prep, I was eating a lot of egg whites. This time, not so much. I feel like I'm a little more just steak, beefs, and canned chicken oriented. I've been throwing in some protein powder, but not a ton, because if food is scarce, I don't want to drink my calories. I want to eat them. I want to actually feel full. But the convenience factor of the canned chicken has been insane. And I don't understand the hate for it. Like, I get it. Yeah, it's got a good chunk of sodium. If you drink a ton of water, that's not a problem. High sodium is not an issue. It's high sodium with low fluid intake that could start to mess with you a little bit, or like give you headaches, or just kind of that like rough feeling. But I'm grabbing a few of these because I'm doing, actually, what is this one? 15. Yeah, because I'm eating 2 of these cans at once because it's 30 grams of protein each. And I just ran out of my big can, so I think let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go for 6 right here. Yeah, this could. Yeah, this will be a good little shot. There we go. Yeah, how's this look? A good 6 cans of chicken. Mixed with this, I'm not just eating this straight out of the can on its own. I'm not that crazy, but I am gonna mix that with just any sauce of your choosing. Something low calorie. You've got a pretty diverse selection. You can just do a plain hot sauce like a Tabasco or a Red Hot. Solid, calories negligible. Mustard, calories negligible. Sugar-free barbecue sauce, it depends on the sauce, or like low sugar ketchup. Those are a pretty good option too. But even then, just because something says no sugar does not mean no calories. A lot of the times, these no sugar barbecue sauce, it's still 4 grams of carbs per serving. And unless you have a kitchen food scale that you use a lot, you can really overdo it. I mean, if I put a liberal amount of barbecue sauce on something, it could be 100 grams, and that's 3 servings. So, sure, 10 calories of barbecue sauce, 10 grams of carbs of barbecue sauce in one meal, 40 calories. Like, sure, that's not that much. That might be a fluctuation in just how food gets tracked anyway. But if you have a 40 calorie deviation every meal, well, then it might it'll kind of just throw you off, Because what? Let's say I'm doing 5 meals per day. 40 calorie deviance over times 5, 200 calories. I mean, if you're in a steady small deficit, just like I was talking about the fats in the ground beef earlier, that can throw you off too, you know? So it's like, I know it seems like you got to have OCD and just be completely like super specific about everything. But if you want it to work, at least, you know, whatever your diet is for those, whatever goals you might have, be it getting bigger or getting leaner, your net intake, it has to be at least close to that ballpark range that you want it to be consistently. If I have 3 days of 2,000 calories, whoa, awesome, I'm in a deficit. But if on that fourth day I have 6,000 calories of Ben and Jerry's and freaking Krispy Kreme donuts, well, that's going to undo those other days because they're going to average out positive. So you gotta have a bit of a stronger kind of self-policing mindset when it comes to like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and here's how I'm gonna do it. But that's enough protein for me for now. Let's go find some rice cakes. All right, I haven't done this for a while, but I get a little bit of an older meal inspiration. Grabbed a big container of pickle chips. So one more kind of, I wouldn't call this a hack per se, but it is at least one of my preferred methods of ground beef consumption is going to be going for essentially a deconstructed burger. So that's where, you know, half a pound of ground beef, low carb ketchup, mustard, low fat mayonnaise, relish, or just like chopped pickle chips, mix the whole thing together, and then you eat that with like a rice cake or something. I mean, it's just freaking perfect, you know? So it's not like it's completely necessary. A lot of these guys, especially hardcore bodybuilders, they're always just, okay, chicken, rice, broccoli, keep it simple, you know? But at least for me, I haven't noticed any issues essentially trying to make most of my meals what you could kind of describe as just meal substitutes, you know? Like, take a regular calorie version of something, replace the bun with either a rice cake or just nothing, you know, just, I mean, look at all the diet soda, right? Just grab a zero sugar version. If all you changed in your day was just grabbing the low carb diet friendly option, I mean, that would be a pretty big hit to your overall calorie intake. I mean, sure, it might make you hungrier because now you're eating less calories, so you might want to make up for that new deficit. But, you know, for the most part, I'm going to feel just as full in the moment from eating like a low carb, or like a low carb whatever, I can't even think of a version of something, versus the real one. Sure, over time, sticking to a real diet, you're going to start to feel it, but making that alteration not that freaking tricky. All right, I really have no idea where the rice cakes are, but in my search, it's kind of led me over here to this jerky aisle, which sometimes, I mean, if I'm getting gas, sometimes I'll walk into Sheetz and grab like whatever low-ish sugar jerky they have. Actually, this might be decent. What is this? So yeah, instantly grabbing something off the shelf. Right here, this is the bread and butter of understanding what's actually going on, just the nutrition facts. So 10 servings, 11 grams of protein, but 6 grams of carbs per serving. That means this whole bag has 60 grams of carbs, just like, you know, added sugar to kind of sweeten it up, which is it's a little tricky. It's a little bit on the nose here, but that's not completely off base. So actually, I think I'm probably going to eat this in the freaking car on the way home. Yeah, let's throw this guy in here. But yeah, really all I need now is some rice cakes and I'll be good because I've got low sugar barbecue sauce and mustard and, you know, low fat mayonnaise at the house. So really this is more of a protein based run. But yeah, let me see if I can find those freaking rice cakes and we can actually get checked out and get back home. Only 10 feet to my left, which unfortunately they've been hidden. Everything else around here is just fucking chips and all the sweets behind me. I mean, look at all this. Like this is, I'm gonna be eating this, just not right now. So I'll try not to think about it. So when it comes to the rice cakes, Quaker is definitely where I belong. It just kind of tastes the best. I've got some apple flavored ones at home already and some caramel ones, but what I'm running light on is just these plain, lightly salted rice cakes. So these do very well in terms of my overall just like meal sizing, because each rice cake sleeve has 2 individual little packets of 7, and each rice cake itself has 7 grams of carbs. So that means each bag is just about 100 grams of carbs worth of rice cakes. So if I have half one of those little individual sleeves, well, that's 50 grams of carbs. That's about what I want per meal right now. So I get to grab basically just one sleeve with whatever protein I end up eating, be it a steak, ground beef, some canned chicken with something. It just kind of sizes itself up pretty well. And since I'm only eating 250-ish grams of carbs per day, I can't really go over that 50, at least on like a basic average per meal basis. So those actually work out freaking perfectly. But with everything, there is always the higher calorie version. So these have 7 grams of carbs each, and then this white cheddar flavored version has 9 grams of carbs, 2 grams of fats each. But these are too good for me not to throw in every so often. So I'm actually gonna get 2 sleeves of those as well. And that's all I need. So not the biggest haul, partially just because I'm not really eating that much food right now anyway. So my trips to the grocery store are getting a little bit more scarce just because I'm freaking physically eating so much less food. And what I've kind of noticed, you know, I mean, I'm obviously walking past like the freaking wall of candy right now, is at least because I know it's only a few weeks out from the show, or 2 weeks out, I'm not like, all right, I'm feeling my mouth water just a little bit, but not enough that I'm like actually thinking about grabbing anything, because it's just kind of crunch time, you know? Like I've made this analogy before, at least for me right now, since the purpose of this diet is to take it to like a show ready level and then actually go compete. It's like you've got a final exam in a week or in like a few days. You almost have to really cram and lock in, just because you know it's like, all right, shit, now I gotta get freaking serious. But yeah, that's basically all I'm eating so far, and this isn't really gonna change. Even going forward 2 weeks, the jerky's probably not gonna be here. I'm probably gonna replace the canned chicken with just ground turkey. So that's gonna be, you know, much leaner than the ground beef, because the last week I really need to make sure there is no discrepancy in my fat intake or anything. I want to be very specific and know how many calories of everything I'm eating. And there's a little bit, I mean, there's like 3 grams of fats per can of those chicken. And if I can have a, you know, ground turkey substitute, which basically fills the same role, but almost completely lean, that's what I'm going to lean for. But yeah, the theme of this last month of dieting, rice cakes, ground beef, steak, canned turkey, or no, canned chicken, and then a bunch of just sugar-free drinks. Be it even like a sugar-free soda, like a sugar-free electrolyte mix. Really, as long as I'm just chugging fluids, that's all I want. But yeah, I'm feeling very good about this diet. If you kept up with any of these videos of this whole prep series, I think I'm bringing a pretty freaky look. So this is going to kind of help me keep fueling up for that going forward. And then we'll just freaking see what happens. So I'm out of here.